Hey class, you have made it to the last week of the term. So this week we will be discussing shame. And I wanted to go over, because it's the role plays that you had done for last semester or last term as well, but I wanted to go over not only the concepts that we'll be talking about and kind of the learning objectives. So learning objective number one for this week is understanding and being able to describe the difference between shame and guilt. So one thing that I will say as someone relatively seasoned in this field is that many clients do have a difficult time differentiating between guilt and shame. And they really are two fundamentally different emotions. So I'll do my best to kind of simplify this as much as I can, but essentially guilt is motivating. Guilt can help somebody feel a desire to change or do something differently. So listen to some of the verbs that I'm saying here. Shame it creates a sense of stuckness because the person is flawed. I am a bad person. So how do you move from that? If it's something inherent in you, how do you move from that? So basically, like a really simple difference between guilt and shame is I did a bad thing or made a bad decision, or I am bad. So here you can see some kind of separation, right? Like I can make a different decision. I can do a different thing, but how do I become different? So so a lot of clients come in with this. I am inherently flawed. I'm a terrible person. I'm a mess up. And then how do you get them from identifying with the decision that they made or the behavior that they made, and then how do you get them to what we call change language, being able to not identify with the decision but recognize that it was something that they have control over. So shame, I have no control over this. I am inherently this thing. Guilt is I can make a different decision next time. Also, there's like self-compassion here. There's self-grace. There's nothing in that here. So just moving forward, you're going to have a lot of clients that don't even, like they wouldn't even, if you were to say, what's the difference between shame and guilt? They'd be like, what? So you'll be listening to some Brene Brown this week, and she actually differentiates between shame, guilt, embarrassment, and humiliation. Because they're all kind of gradients on an emotional spectrum. But the two that I think are the most important for us to learn about and to teach our clients about and to have those conversations with our clients are shame and guilt. So you'll learn the difference more articulately than I just said it, but I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview. You'll also understand and be able to identify ways in which shame affects family dynamics. It's there, and identify the appropriate use of interventions designed to heal shame, which is so important. Again, I don't know if I work with a particular demographic or anything like that, but I'm sure that I feel confident that if you were to like interview many therapists in the field, that they would love to have some resources of how to work with shame and how to help clients with that. Because I would venture to say that it's one of the more common presenting issues for clients. So in terms of activities and resources for this week, you'll be reading everything through Canvas. You'll be reading Will I Ever Quit Being Bad? So very shame-laden language there. You'll read Individual Affirmation and Family Dynamics. You'll read Patterns of Needs, Emotions, and Issues of Transitory Shame. You'll read Family Systems Shaming on Issues of Intimacy or Dependency. You'll read the case study, Blind Fury, When Shame Turns into Rage. So remember too from last term that anger as a secondary emotion, kind of covering up a primary emotion. So I would argue that shame is a primary emotion. So again, if you're digging, you might initially feel that shame. So shame's an interesting emotion because we just identify with it so hard. But because we feel out of control in it, let's get mad about it. So we may feel this twinge, or let's say this, we are feeling this thing that we identify with and believe we are inherently flawed. We don't know how to name it. We don't know how to identify with it. So let's get mad at it. So it's still the same kind of process here of if we're excavating right from the surface, secondary emotion, primary emotion down here, while we're excavating, we touch the anger, that secondary emotion, then we say, oh, feeling, we're done. It's all a discovery we need to do. But really what's driving that is this sense of feeling inherently flawed. So you have to push through that anger and that rage to get to the more like sensitive, vulnerable, honest, hard primary emotion of shame. So then you're going to be rocking with one of my favorites, Brene Brown. You'll be watching a couple of videos here, The Power of Vulnerability. So it's one of her TED Talks. She's just really good at what she does. If you don't agree, that's totally fine. I super resonate with a lot of her messaging. She is highly, highly criticized as well. So I think when you have a platform the size that she does, it just brings about some criticism. So if you don't resonate with it, if you don't relate to it, that is, again, that's fine. I have a particular lived experience. I have a particular worldview. Makes a lot of sense to me. That doesn't mean that if you don't resonate with it, that you're wrong in any way. So please don't think that. And then listening to shame. So another one of Brene Brown's TED Talks. Okay, so then what you have, you have three other things. So you'll be reading and watching. But for this week, you will be doing a discussion post like you always do. So you'll have that critical thinking discussion or the practical application. For the critical thinking, the question that you will be answering is, do you think people can truly heal from a shame-prone identity? If so, how? If not, why? So I really encourage you to read everything before you make your initial post. So that you can really support your stance. And the practical application is, so there's of the 3 domains on which a person can develop a shame-prone identity. So intimacy, accountability, and dependency. Those are the 3 domains. Which do you most identify with? Describe an instance or instances in which this type of shame was transmitted to you, either chronically or transitorily. In what ways does that shame color the lens you view yourself in relationships today? Great question. I would encourage you guys to do that one. Do a little bit of kind of self of the therapist stuff here. Then you have your quiz. So 4 things, sorry, I didn't forget about the quiz, but I'm just now seeing it. So last 2 things you have to do. So you have that role play, same as you did for first term, for May term. Please, guys, remember, you're getting 2 volunteers, but you're working with them simultaneously. So this is a family of some sort. They're a system of some sort, parent, child, partners, grandparent, parent, cousins, some relation. I mean, they really could be like best friends, in the role play, but just 2 people coming to therapy at the same time to work on some like common presenting issue. So you should not be making 2 videos. You should be making 1 video, and you and 2 other people should either be in a Zoom room or a physical room together. So you will be simultaneously in a room with a total of at least 3 people. And then you'll be utilizing one of the theories that we've learned, 2 theory specific interventions from either from one of the theories that we've discussed here. So I know for last term, a few people decided to do like 1 intervention from this theory, 1 intervention from that theory. That's totally fine. So here's the other thing that I'm very much asking all of you to do is in your video. So you're going to do a little intro, just like I do every week with this class. I want you to say, hey, so the presenting issue is, so here I have two partners. Their struggle is communicating around intimacy. I've decided to utilize X theory, and I'm going to be doing X and X interventions from the series. So as I'm watching it, I know what to look for to give you feedback on that. So just make sure that you are providing context. So again, who's in attendance, what the presenting problem is, what theory you're using, what interventions you're using from that theory. So it's at least two to three interventions in that 15 minutes. And then you will provide essentially like kind of a critique of your own role play. So the self-assessment on your competency. You know, you guys largely did a great job last term. So just know that I already see competence, but so I'm saying this in that you're not like, oh my gosh, you know, I couldn't have possibly done this worse or anything like that. Like, I don't need criticism. I want a critique of what you've done. So, you know, I thought I did a really great job attending to this emotion that was brought into the room. I would have liked to maybe follow this thought process a little bit longer. I would have liked to engage both partners more equally since this was an initial session, just things like that. Okay, so that's what we have for this week. Congratulations on making it to the final week. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, I have my office hours for all of you at 9 a.m. on Wednesdays or 5:30 on Wednesdays. So have a wonderful week and great work on this term.